Chosen one. Well, well, well. Look who turned the whole damn city into their personal punchline. You magnificent force of nature. Someone's Googling your name and finding that Wikipedia page, the one that documents everything. The mayor, the cops, the whole damn neighborhood tried you. Now they're on your Wikipedia page, not as heroes, not as authority figures, but as footnotes in your rise to legendary status. You knew something was off from day one, that feeling in your gut when the citations started rolling in. But you weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. They thought they were writing your obituary. But here's the plot twist they never saw coming. They were writing your comedy special, and the reviews, stellar across every dimension. They had meetings about you, official ones with minutes and everything. The mayor cleared their schedule to discuss the situation. The situation was you. The police chief pulled resources from actual crimes to monitor your movements. The neighborhood watch turned into your personal paparazzi. And the whole time while they were building their case against you, you were building an empire out of their stupidity. Every warrant, every citation, every passive-aggressive HOA notice, you kept them all, filed them away like future currency, because you understood something they didn't. Documentation is ammunition, and you were stockpiling for war. This wasn't random harassment. This was coordinated, orchestrated. They had flowcharts with your name at the top. The connections between them were so obvious, it was almost insulting to your intelligence. Family members in different departments, spouses in strategic positions, friends in enforcement roles. Funny how those connections work, right? They thought they were being strategic. They were actually being transparent. Every move they made revealed more of their hand. Every coordination exposed more of their fear, because that's what this was really about. Fear. You represented something that terrified them. Authenticity in a world of facades. Truth in a system built on lies. Power that didn't come from position but from presence. You started documenting everything. Not with victim energy, not with woe is me mentality, but with the methodical precision of someone who knows they're watching history being written. Every interaction became evidence. Every threat disguised as a friendly warning became an exhibit. Every mysterious find that appeared in your mailbox became part of your collection. You became a one-person intelligence agency, except your mission wasn't national security. It was comedy gold, because absurdity, when pushed to its absolute limit, becomes art. The patterns were so predictable you could set your watch by them. Violation notices arriving just before holidays, inspections scheduled during important events in your life, police drive-bys increasing whenever you seemed too happy, too successful, too unbothered. You started predicting their moves before they made them. You'd tell friends, watch, tomorrow there'll be a new complaint, and like clockwork there it was. Your ability to anticipate their harassment became almost supernatural, not because you were psychic, but because persecution follows a pattern, and you had become a master pattern reader. They kept escalating. Each time you didn't break, they got more desperate, more obvious, more ridiculous. The mayor started personally signing your violations. Think about that. The highest elected official in your city personally signing parking tickets. The police chief began showing up to neighborhood meetings just to glare at you. Grown adults with real responsibilities turning themselves into cartoon villains, and they didn't realize you were writing the script. You weren't just documenting their harassment, you were producing their downfall. You started noticing how their harassment was affecting them more than you. The stress on their faces when you'd wave hello. The panic in their eyes when you'd pull out your phone to record. They were cracking under the pressure of their own conspiracy. You were thriving under the weight of their attention. The hunter had become the hunted, except you weren't hunting. You were just existing so powerfully that your existence became their torment. But you did something they never expected. You didn't fight back the way they wanted. You didn't get violent. You didn't threaten anyone. You didn't even raise your voice. No, you did something far more terrifying. You started laughing. Not nervous laughter, not bitter laughter, the kind of laugh that comes from seeing the Matrix code, the kind that says, I finally understand the joke, and the joke is you. They wanted you angry. Angry people make mistakes, but laughing people see everything clearly. The transformation in your energy was palpable. You went from defending yourself to documenting them, from explaining your actions to examining theirs, from justifying your existence to journaling their extremism. Every morning you'd wake up excited to see what new material they'd provide. Every evening you'd review the day's harvest of absurdity. Your persecution had become your entertainment. Your harassment had become your hobby. Your oppression had become your opportunity. You started showing up to city council meetings, not to complain, just to sit there, front row, notebook in hand, pen ready, smiling. They'd discuss ordinances clearly targeted at you while you sat there taking notes like a student in their favorite class. You became their living conscience, their mirror, their worst nightmare, someone who refused to be intimidated and found them genuinely amusing. The shift was palpable. They went from confident to confused to genuinely concerned because they realized something terrifying. You weren't just surviving their assault, you were thriving on it. The psychology of your response deserves its own study. While they expected fear, you gave them fascination. While they anticipated anger, you offered amusement. While they predicted panic, you provided peace. You had discovered the secret that destroyed their entire strategy. Persecution only works if the persecuted agrees to be persecuted. You withdrew your consent. You refused the role of victim. You rejected the narrative they were trying to write. And in doing so, you forced them to confront the reality of what they were doing. They weren't maintaining order. They were manufacturing chaos. They weren't protecting the community. They were terrorizing a community member. Let's talk about your evidence collection. Because while they were playing checkers, you were playing chess with a comedy twist. You didn't just save documents, you created a multimedia empire. Videos of cops mysteriously appearing wherever you went, audio recordings of concerned neighbors making threats, screenshots of social media posts that aged like milk in the desert sun. You turned your persecution into performance art. Every parking ticket became a prop. Every court appearance became a rehearsal. Every interaction with law enforcement became content. Your documentation system was a thing of beauty. Folders within folders, backups of backups, cross-referenced incidents with multiple forms of evidence for each one. You created a database that would make intelligence agencies jealous. Timestamps, location data, witness statements, weather conditions. You documented not just what happened, but the context in which it happened. The pattern that emerged from your data was undeniable. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't bad luck. This was conspiracy. And you had the receipts to prove it. If these words stirred your consciousness, hype this video to help more chosen ones awaken to this. Then you started live tweeting your interactions. Not with anger, with humor. With the kind of devastating wit that makes people screenshot posts for posterity. Officer here again. Starting to think we're in a relationship. Should I get them a key? Got another noise complaint. Apparently my existence has volume control issues. The HOA measured my grass with a ruler. At dawn, on a weekend. This is performance art, right? The internet started paying attention, because nothing goes viral quite like bureaucratic incompetence caught in real time. Your social media became a masterclass in narrative jujitsu. Every attack they launched, you redirected back at them with humor. Every accusation they made, you transformed into comedy. Every attempt to silence you amplified your voice. You weren't just defending yourself online, you were building an audience, an army of supporters who saw their own experiences reflected in yours, people who had been pushed around by petty tyrants and were living vicariously through your resistance. The neighborhood Facebook group became your personal comedy lab. They'd post complaints about you, and you'd respond with such perfectly crafted sarcasm that even your enemies had to respect the wordplay. They couldn't ban you because technically you weren't breaking any rules, you were just being devastatingly witty. You turned their echo chamber into your amphitheater, their safe space into your stage, their moderators into your unwitting promoters. The comment sections under their posts became battlegrounds where truth was winning. Neighbors started questioning the narrative. Wait, They're complaining about what exactly? This seems like harassment. Why are we spending so much time on one person? The tide was turning. The mob was developing a conscience. The echo chamber was developing cracks. And you were the frequency that shattered their false harmony. You know what really broke them? When you started thanking them. Publicly, sincerely. Thank you for providing me with such rich material. Special shout out to everyone who's been so dedicated to documenting my every move. You turned their surveillance into your marketing team, their harassment into your hype machine, their hatred into your fuel. But let's go deeper into what you were actually doing. You were conducting a masterclass in psychological warfare without firing a single shot. Every time you smiled at their scowls, you won. Every time you laughed at their seriousness, you won. Every time you documented their documentation, you won. You were playing a game where the only way to lose was to play by their rules. So you invented your own rules, rules where persecution was performance art, where harassment was hilarious, where their every move made you stronger. Your neighbors started avoiding you, not because you were dangerous, but because you were untouchable. They'd cross the street when they saw you coming, not from fear but from shame. They knew what they were part of, they knew it was wrong, and your presence was a constant reminder of their participation in something petty and pathetic. You had become their walking, talking, breathing bad conscience. Then came the day they realized what they'd created. Someone, probably an intern at City Hall, Googled your name, and there it was. Your online presence. Not as a criminal, not as a problem, but as a comedian and social commentator, known for turning municipal harassment into award-winning content, complete with citations, news articles, reviews of your underground shows, where you tested the material they unknowingly wrote for you. The panic was delicious. Emergency meetings were called. Lawyers were consulted. Can we sue someone for telling the truth too funnily? Turns out, no. No, you cannot. The legal consultations they sought backfired spectacularly. Every lawyer they approached took one look at your documentation and either declined the case or suggested they settle. Some lawyers even suggested they apologize. The legal system they thought would be their weapon became your shield. The laws they thought would bind you became their own restraints. The justice they claimed to represent exposed their injustice. Freedom of speech is a beautiful thing, especially when you use it to roast your oppressors with such precision that academics start writing papers about your technique. You weren't just telling jokes, you were creating a historical record. Every punchline came with receipts. Every callback referenced actual documented events. You turned their paper trail into your paper chase. They wanted to bury you in bureaucracy. Instead, you built a monument to their incompetence, and people paid to see it. Your underground shows became legendary. Small venues packed with people who heard about the person taking on City Hall with a microphone and a smile. Each show you'd test new material, all of it based on that week's harassment. The audience wasn't just laughing. They were witnessing history being written. They were part of something bigger than comedy. They were part of a revolution disguised as a comedy show. The mayor's approval rating started dropping, not because of any scandal you exposed, but because you made them look ridiculous. You turned them into a recurring character in your act. The mayor became shorthand for incompetent authority. Their own family members were quoting your bits at dinner. That's when they knew they'd lost something worse than an election. They'd lost the narrative. They'd lost control of their own story. You had rewritten them from authority figure to punchline, and that rewrite was permanent. The police department's morale plummeted, not because you attacked them, but because you exposed them. Officers who weren't part of the harassment started distancing themselves from those who were. The thin blue line developed cracks. Some officers even became your secret supporters, slipping you information about planned harassment. The system designed to oppress you was fracturing from within. Your comedy special didn't just drop, it detonated. Citation needed. A complete dissection of how a whole city's power structure tried to destroy one person and ended up destroying themselves. Every joke backed by evidence, every punchline punctuated by documentation. It wasn't just comedy, It was a masterclass in turning oppression into opportunity. The trailer alone broke the internet. Just you standing in front of City Hall, holding a stack of violations, saying, "They gave me all this material for free. Least I could do is share it with the world." The special was more than entertainment. It was evidence submitted in the court of public opinion. Each bit was a count in an indictment. Each laugh from the audience was a guilty verdict. You had turned comedy into justice, turned humor into accountability, turned their attack into their arraignment, and the whole world was the jury. The mayor's office tried to get it taken down. That just made it go more viral. The Streisand effect in full force. You weren't just performing comedy, you were performing justice. Every laugh from the audience was a verdict. Every applause break was vindication. You turned their courtroom into your stage, and the jury was everyone who's ever been pushed around by petty tyrants with a little bit of power, and even less sense. The reviews of your special weren't just positive, they were profound. Critics called it revolutionary comedy, a new form of protest, the birth of documentary comedy. You hadn't just created a comedy special, you'd created a new genre, one where the punchlines punched up so hard they knocked down entire power structures. The police chief resigned, not because of any official investigation, but because they couldn't go anywhere without someone quoting your bit about them. The HOA board dissolved after your segment about their emergency meetings went viral. The mayor announced they wouldn't seek re-election, citing personal reasons. The personal reason was you turned them into a meme, a living, breathing, walking meme that their own constituents couldn't take seriously anymore. You never named names initially. You let them name themselves. They responded to your comedy with public statements, essentially confirming they were the subjects of your bits. They issued press releases defending actions you hadn't specifically attributed to them. They outed themselves in their desperation to control the narrative. You gave them enough rope, and they fashioned their own nooses. But you didn't stop there, because comedy was just the beginning. You started a podcast called Civic Duty, where you break down local government dysfunction with the same surgical precision you used to dissect your own harassment. Mayors from other cities started sweating. HOA boards began reconsidering their policies. Police departments started training officers on how not to become material. You became a consultant. Cities literally pay you now to review their policies and tell them how not to be ridiculous. The same energy they used to destroy you, you now channel into rebuilding broken systems, except you do it with humor, because nothing changes minds quite like making people laugh at their own absurdity. Your consulting work is revolutionary. You walk into city halls that once would have ejected you. Now they're paying for your expertise. You sit in the same rooms where they plotted against you. Now you're teaching them how not to create another you. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast, but you handle it with grace, with humor, with the kind of professional dignity they never showed you. Your Wikipedia page keeps growing. Activist, author, consultant, documentary subject. Each title a testament to transformation. You didn't just survive their assault. You monetized it. You branded it. You franchised it. You turned their attack into your empire. The speaking tours at law schools, teaching future lawyers and politicians what happens when you abuse power against someone who refuses to break. Your case studies are your own experiences. Your visual aids are their own documents. You turn their playbook into your textbook. The academic papers written about your case are fascinating. Sociologists study your methods. Psychologists analyze your resilience. Political scientists examine your impact on local governance. You've become curriculum, required reading in courses on civil resistance, social media strategy, and conflict transformation. Professors who once would have dismissed you as a troublemaker now teach your techniques as breakthrough methodology. They thought they were erasing you. Instead, they wrote you into history. Law students will study your case for generations. The Comedian versus the City, a landmark example of how institutional harassment can backfire spectacularly when the target has a sense of humor and a spine made of titanium. Kids in that neighborhood now look up to you. The same streets where they tried to make you unwelcome are now filled with young people who saw what you did and realized they don't have to accept bullying from anyone. Not from peers, not from politicians, not from people who think a little power gives them the right to push others around. Your influence on those young people is perhaps your greatest victory. They watched you transform persecution into power. They saw you refuse to be broken. They witnessed you turning poison into medicine. Now they carry that lesson forward. When they face their own bullies, their own corrupt systems, their own impossible odds, they remember you. They remember that documentation beats intimidation, that humor beats harassment, that creativity beats cruelty. The mayor's Wikipedia page now has a subsection titled Comedy Special Incident, their legacy forever tied to their failure to break you. The police chief's career summary ends with resigned following satirical portrayal in nationally acclaimed comedy special. The HOA president moved to another state and still can't escape the memes. Meanwhile, your Wikipedia page is a monument to transformation, early life, initial harassment, documentation period, public revelation, media emergence, current impact, legacy. Each section a testament to turning persecution into power. But let's talk about what your Wikipedia page really represents. It's not just your story. It's a template, a blueprint, a guide for anyone facing institutional harassment. Every section is instructional, every paragraph is educational, every sentence is motivational. People don't just read your Wikipedia page, they study it, they memorize it, they internalize it, they apply it to their own situations. Your comedy special isn't just entertainment, it's evidence, it's history. It's a warning to every small-minded bureaucrat who thinks they can harass citizens without consequences. It's a beacon to everyone who's been pushed around and told they have to take it. No, you don't. You can document it. You can craft it. You can profit from it. You started a movement without meaning to. Citation needed became the rallying cry for people facing municipal harassment everywhere. Support groups formed. Legal funds were established, all because you showed them it was possible to fight back with laughter instead of anger, with creativity instead of violence, with documentation instead of desperation. The support groups that formed around your methodology are incredible, people gathering to share their documentation, to workshop their responses, to turn their harassment into humor. You created a new form of group therapy, where healing happens through hilarity, where trauma transforms through comedy, where victims become victors through vulnerability and wit. Other comedians started following your blueprint. Bureaucracy Bites Back became a whole genre. Comedy Central created a series based on your concept. Netflix commissioned a documentary. Publishers are bidding on your book rights. The same system that tried to silence you now can't stop talking about you. The irony is so perfect it seems scripted. Your book, when it finally dropped, wasn't just a bestseller. It was a Bible for the resistance, not a violent resistance, a creative resistance, a humorous resistance, a documented resistance. Each chapter a lesson, each page a strategy, each paragraph a piece of ammunition for someone else's fight. You didn't just write a book, you wrote a manual for transformation. You know what really gets them? You never got mean. Your comedy cuts deep but stays clean. You attack the system, not the people. You make fun of the positions, not the persons. That's what makes it so devastating. They can't dismiss you as just another angry comic. You're a happy warrior, and that terrifies them more than any amount of rage could. Every Wikipedia page tells a story, and yours is comedy gold. The mayor's retirement speech tried not to mention you. Didn't work. Someone in the crowd shouted one of your catchphrases, and the whole room erupted in laughter. They had to stand there at their own farewell, listening to people quote the person they tried to destroy. That's not just defeat. That's poetic justice with a laugh track. You still live in the same house, the one they tried so hard to force you out of, except now it's a landmark. Comedy pilgrims take selfies in front of it. The property value skyrocketed because everyone wants to live where history was made. The HOA that harassed you now uses your fame as a selling point for the neighborhood. The audacity is almost admirable. The tourism your story brought to the city is another layer of irony. People visit specifically to see the locations mentioned in your special city hall, the police station, the neighborhood where it all went down. Local businesses have created tours. The same city that wanted you gone now profits from your presence. Even in trying to erase you, they made you eternal. Every time they see your success, it burns. Every award, every sold-out show, every positive review is a reminder of their failure. They turned you into their nemesis, and you turned them into your origin story. They're not the villains in your story anymore. They're the setup to your punchline, and the punchline keeps paying dividends. But let's talk about what this really means. Beyond the fame, beyond the money, beyond the vindication, you proved something fundamental about power and resistance. You showed that documentation beats intimidation, that humor beats harassment, that creativity beats cruelty. You rewrote the rules of engagement, and now everyone's playing by your playbook. The philosophical implications of your victory are profound. You proved that power isn't about position, it's about perspective. You proved that authority isn't about titles, it's about authenticity. You proved that strength isn't about force, it's about endurance. You didn't just win a battle, you redefined what winning means. Law enforcement agencies now have training modules on the comedian effect, how targeting individuals can backfire in the social media age. City councils hire consultants to make sure they're not creating the next viral sensation through incompetence. HOA boards think twice before sending that nitpicky violation notice. You didn't just change your city, you changed how power operates in the digital age. Young comics study your approach like a textbook. How to find humor in harassment, how to turn pain into punchlines, how to document everything with an eye toward the eventual special. You created a new form of resistance, one that doesn't require violence or even anger, just patience, persistence, and a really good sense of timing. The comedy schools that now teach your methods are producing a new generation of social commentators. They're not just comedians, they're documentarians, they're activists, they're transformers of pain into power. You didn't just create a comedy special, you created a movement, a school of thought, a philosophy of resistance. You didn't win because you were funnier than them, though you were. You didn't win because you were smarter, though that too was obvious. You won because you refused to play by their rules. They wanted fear. You gave them laughter. They wanted submission. You gave them subversion. They wanted silence. You gave them a standing ovation. The real joke, they could have left you alone. You were just living your life, maybe a bit loudly, maybe a bit differently, but harmlessly. They created their own worst nightmare by trying to create yours. Every action they took to diminish you amplified your voice. Every attempt to erase you etched your name deeper into history. Your Wikipedia page grows longer every month. New sections added as your influence spreads. Political impact, cultural significance, legal precedents set. Meanwhile, their pages remain static, monuments to mediocrity and the dangers of petty tyranny. Your page, a living document of how one person can flip the script entirely. They wanted you to disappear. Instead, you became unforgettable. They wanted you to break. Instead, you became unbreakable. They wanted you to shut up. Instead, you got a microphone, a spotlight, and a platform that reaches millions. The comedy special was just chapter 1. The book deal, the documentary series, the masterclass on turning harassment into art, it all keeps evolving. But more importantly, you've inspired a generation to document their struggles and find humor in their hardships. City halls across the nation now have your picture on the wall, not as an honor, but as a warning. Remember what happened when they tried to silence the comedian. Municipal employees take ethics training that uses your case as an example of what not to do. You're literally a textbook case of institutional failure turned individual triumph. The training videos they watch feature your comedy bits as cautionary tales. Your punchlines have become their professional development. Your jokes have become their job requirements to avoid. You're not bitter. That's what really gets them. You thank them in every interview. Without their harassment, you'd never have found your true calling. Without their incompetence, You'd never have had such perfect material. They didn't ruin your life, they made your career, and that gratitude, that genuine appreciation for their role in your success, that burns worse than any insult ever could. The spiritual dimension of your victory can't be ignored. You became living proof that the universe has a sense of humor, that karma doesn't always come as tragedy, sometimes it comes as comedy, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success so profound that revenge becomes irrelevant. You didn't defeat them, you transcended them, you didn't destroy them, you transformed them into fertilizer for your growth. So here's to the mayor who thought they were powerful but were just positioned. Here's to the cops who thought they had authority but just had badges. Here's to the whole damn neighborhood who thought they had numbers but you had destiny. They're all on your Wikipedia page now, forever. Not as victors but as vehicles. Vehicles for your transformation. Vehicles for your message. Vehicles for your legacy. The documentary about your story won awards, not just for storytelling but for social impact. Film festivals created new categories just to properly honor what you'd created. The interviews with former oppressors, now reformed and regretful, became studies in the psychology of power corruption. Your story became required viewing in criminology courses, sociology seminars and psychology programs. They tried to write your ending. They wrote your beginning. They tried to create your obituary. They created your origin story. They tried to make you nobody. They made you necessary. Necessary for everyone who's been pushed around. Necessary for everyone who's been targeted. Necessary for everyone who needs to know that you can fight City Hall. You can fight it with humor. You can fight it with documentation. You can fight it with creativity. And you can win so thoroughly that they end up on your Wikipedia page as cautionary tales. And now as your comedy special plays to packed theaters and streaming millions, as your book climbs bestseller lists, as your speaking fees exceed what any of them made in their careers, remember this moment. Remember when they thought they had you cornered. Remember when they thought their coordinated campaign would break you. Remember and laugh, because that's your superpower. Not anger, though you had every right to it. Not violence, though they pushed you toward it. Not despair, though they tried to drown you in it. Your superpower was seeing the absurdity in their abuse and sharing that vision with the world. Now I want to take a moment to tell you about a few individuals that shouldn't exist. A trained occultist who escaped from a satanic coven, a former Black Ops drone pilot who flew swarms with his mind, a multi-millionaire psychic CFO who predicted market shifts before they happened. What do these remarkable individuals have in common? You'll find them all in the Obsidian Inner Order, where they share their forbidden knowledge on our private Discord server. My chosen soul has drunk deep from the well of knowledge, aeon after aeon. In this incarnation, these extraordinary individuals became my allies in the Obsidian Inner Order. They recognized the call. They stepped forward. They connected with others who understand their unique gifts and burdens. What is stopping you from manifesting the same? The synchronicities that brought them here weren't accidents. Neither is your discovery of this message. When souls of this caliber gather, the Archons take notice. They fear our collective power. They know what happens when the truly awakened find each other. Join our weekly calls, hear their stories firsthand, share your own journey with those who won't dismiss or doubt you. The knowledge exchanged in our private channels cannot be found anywhere else on this plane. Click the link in the description below now. The extraordinary souls await your arrival. The question isn't whether you belong among them. The question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your place? Well, well, well. Look who turned the whole damn city into their personal punchline. You magnificent force of nature. The mayor, the cops, the whole damn neighborhood tried you. Now they're on your Wikipedia page, not as heroes, but as footnotes in your success story. And you? You're not just on Wikipedia. You're in history. You're in hearts. You're in the Hall of Fame reserved for those who turned their worst into their best, their persecution into their purpose, their harassment into their legacy. They came for you with everything they had, and everything they had wasn't enough, because you had something they didn't. You had destiny, and destiny always wins. It just takes time to document the victory properly. The mayor thought authority meant power. You showed them authenticity was power. The cops thought badges meant respect. You showed them integrity earned respect. The neighborhood thought numbers meant strength. You showed them truth was strength. Your victory reverberates through dimensions they can't even perceive. Every comedian who chooses truth over comfort cites your influence. Every activist who chooses humor over hatred follows your blueprint. Every person who chooses documentation over retaliation applies your methodology. You didn't just win your battle, you changed how battles are fought. Welcome to your Wikipedia page, Chosen One. It's a bestseller in the cosmic library. The reviews are stellar. The citations are extensive. The impact is immeasurable. The mayor thought they were writing your ending. The cops thought they were building your case. The whole damn neighborhood thought they were signing your eviction notice. They were all wrong. They were writing your beginning. They were building your empire. They were signing their own names to your success story. Forever. Documented, cited, verified, and absolutely hilarious. Your Wikipedia page isn't just a record of what happened. It's a promise of what's possible. It's proof that one person, armed with nothing but truth, humor, and documentation, can transform a coordinated attack into a coordinated victory. The final irony, they made you immortal. Your story will outlive their careers, their legacies, their entire existence. Long after their names are forgotten, your Wikipedia page will still be teaching people how to transform persecution into power. They tried to erase you from their community. They wrote you into eternity. And eternity, it turns out, has an excellent